Hello, I'm Dr. Lisa Colledge. Welcome to Culture by Neurodesign. Now today I'll be continuing to discuss my signature program, 12 Steps to a Future-Ready Workplace Culture. We'll be focusing on step 4, which marks a critical shift from personal observation, reflection, and behavior change to engaging your whole team. And this step really starts to get to the heart of cognitive inclusion. You're recognizing and responding to the different ways that people think, process, communicate, and contribute all together as a team, so that everyone understands and everyone can contribute to creating the cognitively inclusive culture that will make that team the best that it can be. Now, we're not doing this just to be fair or kind, although fairness and kindness matter a lot. We're doing this because diverse thinking fuels 3 core outcomes that every team needs: engagement and wellness, talent opportunities, and innovation and resilience. Now, if you've been following this 12 steps journey so far, you'll know that this program is designed to provide a set of small, intentional, manageable shifts that fit in your already busy, day-to-day role, and built towards something that is transformative for your team. And in this episode, we're going to make a critical pivot. We're going to move from what you have been doing alone to thinking about how you and your team grow together. So we'll talk about how to bring your team into the journey, not as observers, but as full partners. We'll also look at how to build shared accountability using a simple but powerful tool. That's my Neurostyle Navigator, which may reveal some deeper insights to you as a leader if you want to take your team even further than the basics that this program is designed to cover. Now, if you haven't been following the journey so far, don't worry at all. Let me quickly recap the steps that I've already covered, and of course you can listen to those episodes in full if you'd like more details. So in step 1 that I covered in episode 18, we discussed observing the dynamics within your team, moments of connection, points of friction, to start to get a feel for the diverse cognitive styles in your team. So remember, this kind of diversity is universal, but it's hidden, unlike gender, age, ethnicity. And we each approach this kind of diversity from the bias of our own cognitive style. So it's especially important that we pay objective attention to it. In step 2 that I talked about in episode 22, we focused on creating a cognitive inclusion vision that's relevant to the situation and the function of your team. So we created a practical vision. It reflects the change that you want to see, whether that's deeper engagement, a stronger collaboration, or a culture of sustainable innovation. And critically, in step 2, we made it actionable and measurable. And in step 3, that was episode 26, you began modeling the change yourself as a leader. You took some small behaviors that make a big difference, like outcome-focused leadership, that's focusing on what needs to be done instead of telling people how to do it, and other micro-inclusions. And these just weren't performative gestures. They set the tone for a new kind of team culture and gave you strong examples to draw on now in step 4 when we bring your team in. So you'll no longer be walking alone to achieve your vision. Involving your team now will help you all progress more quickly and more impactfully through the rest of these 12 steps, and also sustain that momentum and those benefits beyond. And there's a quote I love that says, "Weak teams avoid accountability. Mediocre teams think accountability belongs to the boss. And elite teams share accountability." And that's what we're building towards: shared accountability, elite teams. Now, you've already avoided making one common mistake, which is putting your team through a multi-day training but not modeling the change yourself. Great, you would have ticked the box, but nothing much would have happened. But you haven't fallen into that trap. So now don't fall into the next one either, thinking that you need to have it all figured out before you involve your team. You don't need to have all the answers. What you need is a reason, and you have that already in your vision. And you have the credibility from step 3 to talk about your own experiences of starting to change your behavior in this way that's inspired by neurodivergence inclusion, you can talk about your experiences as you invite others into the journey. Getting your team on board is one of the best practices of successful culture change. I talked about this in episode 4, where I shared several ways to de-risk change, and 3 of those practices are especially relevant now. Involve people early, give them a stake in shaping the journey, and start with small steps that create visible value. And that's what step 4 is all about. Let me share a personal story. Years ago, I was part of a very dysfunctional leadership team. There were strong personalities, there were clashing communication styles. We didn't have the shared language or motivation to talk about it. People were working hard, but we weren't working together. Everybody was fighting for themselves. There was innovation, but it was in bursts and there wasn't any follow through. In fact, it was very much like the IBM that Louis Gerstner found when he joined, before he transformed it, as I discussed in episode 29 last time. So in that situation, I felt invisible, miserable. I wasn't the only one. None of us were happy. The team had an overriding style as well. Lots of discussion, lots of ideation, but little structure or follow through. I offered planning, structure, systems thinking, but none of that mattered if people couldn't appreciate the value that I brought. We weren't missing talent at all. We had talent in abundance. We were missing understanding, and we were missing leadership that guided us to succeed together. I thought my colleagues were avoiding making decisions. They thought I was shutting down ideas. So eventually a visionary leader took over who did create a culture in which the goal was making sure that the collective genius emerged, and we started to learn from each other. I understood that my colleagues weren't talking endlessly for the sake of it. They weren't avoiding decisions. They enjoyed it. The ideation was where they got their energy and their new ideas. And they understood that I wasn't shutting ideas down. I was trying to make the best decision with the information that we had so that we could move on in a timely way. And that's one of several moments that helped me shift to my current understanding of inclusion, that it's not all about big gestures or diversity programs and percentages. Inclusion is for everybody, and it's about how people experience working with you. And that brings me to one more moment that I'll never forget. I was once interviewed for a role that I really wanted, and after the interview I heard that the interviewer had said something like, she's got all the skills but I'm just not sensing any passion from her. I was crushed, right? Because inside I was passionate, but I'm an introvert. I don't show passion the way others might. Certainly not the way that that interviewer expected. And I was nervous as well, which makes me control myself even more. At first glance, I don't burn with what the interviewer called the holy fire. But luckily, a supporter of me said, you know, she's British. Get to know her a little bit and you'll find no holy fire, but a holy furnace or something like that. And I got the role. So now I've learned to be more obvious in showing my emotions. I know it helps to create a safe environment and it helps others to do the same, but I'll never be as natural at showing holy fire or a holy furnace as my extrovert husband, for example. Introverts often get told that we lack enthusiasm or ambition, but the truth is we just express it differently. And workplaces that don't recognize that, that don't value that, miss out on some of their most capable contributors. So with these 2 personal examples, I want to start you thinking about what we lose when we don't truly see each other, when we assume and we don't ask respectfully and curiously, what is driving your behavior? These are good examples, and that's the reason I shared them for step 4. Step 4 isn't just about inviting your team in. It's about making sure you see them and that they see you and they see each other. So what does it look like in practice? Now, there are 2 main actions you're going to take in step 4. First of all, you're going to explain the program to your team. You're going to share why you started it, what you've learned, and what your vision is. You need to tell your team this isn't about fixing people. It's about respect for differences and finding a way to let everyone contribute in a way that works for the team. It's about building a team that works better together. Right, you're going to give examples, maybe from step 1, where you made your observations about things that were going well and interactions with friction in your team. Or it could be about your own behavior changes and the observations that you captured from step 3. But you set the clear expectation, ideally backed up with an element of performance evaluation, that everybody is going to be part of this change. And second, you run my Neurostyle Navigator. Now, this is a team exercise that visualizes different ways that people think and work. It's based on pairs of opposites, which you present as spectrums, not boxes, right? It's not black and white. And there will never be a question about whether someone is neurodivergent or neurotypical, even though this is all inspired by neurodivergence inclusion. The Neurostyle Navigator is all about observable behaviors and practices. Now, in the PDF download for step 4, I give you a few spectra, a few pairs to try out. And if you want more examples, email me and ask me for the Co-Navigator PDF. But let me give you one example here. Now, imagine a spectrum between, on one extreme, I prefer to reflect and respond later, and at the other extreme, I prefer to answer in the moment. Now, you can imagine how this plays out in meetings, right? If most people like to share now, perhaps thinking aloud, then those on the reflective end may never have the opportunity to share their insights, and they might sometimes be the ones with the best ideas. If you have a lot of team members who prefer to reflect and respond later, or any team members who prefer to reflect and respond later, then you might decide, when you operationalize these discussions in the coming steps that we'll cover later, you might decide to build in a, let's say, 3-day response window after meeting, so that people who prefer to have time to consider can still contribute to the decision. You might have some people in the middle between these two extremes, and then as a team you could discuss, like, what are the situations when you prefer to contribute now and the situations when you prefer to have time to think. And this kind of insight's incredibly valuable for building team norms. We'll be doing that for several different use cases in the operational stage, the next stage. That's steps 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, this spectrum between contributing now or thinking and contributing later, that doesn't require a diagnosis. You don't need to be labeled to benefit. Whether someone is neurodivergent, hasn't been diagnosed, doesn't want a label, or simply expresses themselves differently, it doesn't matter. This tool creates a space for everyone. But consider, someone with ADHD may say that they prefer to answer in the moment. Someone with autism may prefer to reflect. These differences are surfaced without any need for a diagnosis, or if you do have one, without needing to share it. And it will still help people with those styles when you recognize these preferences as a team. So the Navigator lets people say, this is how I do my best work. It's not because they're difficult, as I said we thought in the leadership team example that I shared earlier. You say, this is how I do my best work, because you want to contribute well. And this also isn't about creating a custom environment for every single person at all times. It's about creating shared norms that get everyone closer to their preferences most of the time. So overall, the performance of your team working together will go up. So as I said, you'll use this insight in steps 5 to 8, the operational stage, where we co-create team norms using a set of principles that I've developed, the FIT principles, which stand for fairness, inclusion, and team-mindedness. If you want, you can also go deeper based on the Neurostyle Navigator discussion. Like, you could use it to create work style snapshots, which are practical cues like, if you want me at my best, give me time to think and reply by email, or please don't ask me for input at the end of the day, I do my best work in the morning. If you're a leader and you want to use it to go deeper, you may observe, for example, that everyone in your team plots in the same place, or most people in your team plot in the same place for one or more of the spectra. And you may ask, why? Are you missing diversity? And do you need to find ways to bring in that diversity, or are people actually just afraid to be honest, which is a different problem? You could also consider whether you consistently give people with certain styles higher performance ratings or promotions, and consider, if you do so, whether a bias is at play, which you may need to address. Noticing those things is, of course, the first step, but acting on them is what builds trust and unlocks potential. There's a third way to go deeper as well. What about team members who want to start now? Right, not wait till step 5. They want to start now. Who are the early adopters? Great. Share step 3 with them. Invite them to practice the micro inclusions that were exemplified in step 3. And also encourage them to believe their teammates when their teammates share how they work best. Be more inclusive by suspending judgment and assuming best intent. And just to offer kindnesses and small support, even a kind word, can change someone's day. Some of the most powerful micro-inclusive moments that I have experienced have come in everyday situations. And they were things that the other person may have considered trivial. It was someone showing support during a difficult moment with my autistic son, and a small kindness that made traveling to visit my family at busy Christmas just so much easier. So these gestures don't cost anything. It's just kindness. It's just thoughtfulness. It's suspending judgment and being nice, but the impact is lasting. So by the end of step 4, you will have shared your vision with your team. You'll have made invisible cognitive differences visible through the Neurostyle Navigator, and you'll have started building shared ownership of your culture. And as always, you've got options to complete these actions. You can do it your way from the step 4 PDF download. You can request the Co-Navigator PDF from me by emailing me, and I'll send that to you. It's got some extra support in it. Or you can make a smart investment so that I will moderate your Neurostyle Navigator team session for you. But whichever action you choose, you've moved from me to we. And in step 5, we're going to build on this we by co-creating communication norms that unlock the full potential of your diverse team. Now, if you haven't yet signed up to my 12 steps program, now's the time. Following feedback, which I've been delighted to receive, I'm going to be transitioning this into a premium leadership offer. So sign up now if you're interested and want to have a look. You'll find all the details and a sign up link on my website and in the episode notes as well. I think step 4 is such a motivating moment. You've taken the time to observe your team, you've built a vision, you've started modeling inclusive leadership, and now you're not alone. Now you can start to make it real with your team. Now you can really start to move. And this isn't extra work. These are changes that you're going to integrate into your regular interactions, and they're already making a difference. Thanks for listening.